Hi, this is Edward Troxel. There was an inquiry on the forums wondering how to find the previous keyframe to where the cursor location was. So in this tutorial, we're going to look at how to locate the previous keyframe for both track motion and pan crop. We're going to do both at the same time just for simplicity's sake, but you can use either one as needed. So here's the project that we're going to be looking at. Here I have a project with a single event on the timeline. There are a couple of track motion events. If we expand the track motion timeline, you can see them here. And this last one is at 4309. That might be good to remember. And then under pan crop, we have a couple of keyframes here. If I click on this keyframe, then it will move the cursor to position 10622 on the timeline. And so that is where it is located on the timeline. It's a little bit different because our event doesn't start at the 0 point, so it's much shorter than that in the event itself. So I'm going to move the cursor back over here so that it's the last one before the cursor. So let's look at the code. First thing we're going to do is get the cursor location. First of all, we want a time code, which is the cursor, and that will be myvegas.transport.cursorPosition. Then for each track, my track in myvegas.project.tracks, if this track is a video track, then I'm going to look for track motion keyframes. And we're going to get the track motion keyframe from find previous track motion keyframe, and then we're going to pass it to this video track and the cursor location. And then in this particular case, all I'm going to do is pop up a message box saying the previous track motion keyframe was located at, and then this position on the timeline. Then I'm going to go through each event on that video track. So the video event in mytrack.events. If the video event.start is less than the cursor and the video event.end is greater than or equal to the cursor, in other words, is the cursor over this event, then I'm going to look for the video motion keyframe, which I just called VMKF, and in this case we're going to call find previous pan crop keyframe, and I'm going to pass it the video event and the cursor location. Then once again, all we're going to do is do a message box.show, and then we'll say the previous pan crop keyframe was located at this position. That's the position in the event, which is this position, the position of the keyframe plus the video event start on the timeline. So we'll get both where is it on the event and where is it on the timeline. So let's look at these two routines separately. First, we have find previous track motion keyframe. Like we said, we're passing it a video track and a time code. So now I'm going to set me a track motion keyframe, I just call it previous keyframe, to null. Then I'm going to go through each one of the track motion keyframes for each track motion keyframe, TMKF, in mytrack.trackmotion.motion keyframes. If track motion keyframe.position is less than the cursor position, the time code that I sent the routine, if it's less than that time code, then that's my last previous keyframe, so I'll set my previous keyframe equal to TMKF. That will keep increasing as we go through the track motion keyframes. Otherwise, if we found one that's actually greater than the position, then we can just go ahead and break right now. And then we're going to return that previous keyframe. For the find previous pan crop keyframe, we're passing it a video event and a time code. Once again, this time we're going to do a video motion keyframe called previous keyframe equals null. Then we're going to do for each video motion keyframe, VMKF, in the video event .video motion.keyframes. Then if the video motion keyframe.position is less than, here we have to compensate for the beginning of the event versus the track location. So it will be the time code of the cursor minus the video event.start. Then we want to get that previous keyframe. If it's greater than that, then what we want to do is go ahead and break because we don't need to look at any after the cursor location. And then once again, we're going to return that previous keyframe. So let's see how it works. So now we've run the script, and we see our previous track motion keyframe is located at 4309, which is where we said that that last keyframe was. And then it says that our previous pan crop keyframe is located at 38 seconds, which is correct for the event, but it's 1:06:22 on the timeline, which was the time that we noted earlier. Now, just to make sure this is working, let's move our cursor back here, and let's go ahead and add a new keyframe there. And let's go ahead and come in here and add a new keyframe here. And then let's move our cursor left a little bit and verify that we get the same numbers. So once again, we get our previous track motion keyframe is 4309, so it skipped the one that was after the cursor. And it says the previous pan crop keyframe is at 38 seconds, which is 1:06:22 on the timeline, which is previous to the new one that we just added. So locating the previous keyframe, it really isn't a difficult proposition. It's just a matter of going through all of them until you find the first one that's after the cursor location, or you don't find any more that are after the cursor location. So either way, it ends so that we return the one that is previous to the cursor location. Hope you find this tutorial useful. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.
Please sign up at www.JETDV.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.